Yayoi Kusama is a Japanese artist who wanted to become world famous for her paintings and sculptures. She is sometimes called the Princess of Polka Dots. Although she makes lots of different types of art, they have one thing in common: dots.
By adding marks and dots to her paintings, drawings, objects and clothes, she feels as if she is making them and herself melt into and become part of the bigger universe. She had a first of many exhibitions. There in 1959, she met many important artists, including Georgia O'Keeffe, Donald Judge, and Andy Warhol. She was one of the first artists to experiment with performance and action art. Now, in her 90s, she's famous around the world for her work. She sees herself as a single dot connected to all the other dots around the world.
Once upon a time, there was a curious girl named May who could not make up her mind to be when she grew up. Sewing dresses for Barbie dolls, she wanted to be a fashion designer. Reading a book about space travel, she wanted to be an astronaut.
She studied chemical engineering, African American studies, and medicine. Then she applied to NASA to become an astronaut. May was selected after 1 year of training. She was sent into space on board the space shuttle. She carried out tests on the other members of the crew. Since she was not only an astronaut but also a doctor, her mission was to conduct experiments on things like weightlessness and motion sickness. Mae Jemison was the first African American woman in space.
Grace O'Malley, pirate. Once upon a time, on a wild green island, lived a girl with long ginger hair. Her name was Grace. When wind howled and waves crashed against the rocks, Grace would stand on the cliff top and dream of sailing out across the stormy seas. Girls cannot be sailors, her father told her, and anyway, your long hair would get tangled in the rigging.
Grace didn't like this one bit. She cut her hair short and dressed in boys' clothes to prove to her family that she too could live in the life of the sea. Finally, one day, her father agreed to take her sailing, on one condition: if we meet a pirate ship, hide below deck, he said. But when they were attacked, Grace leaped off the rigging and landed on one of the pirates' backs. Her surprise attack worked and they beat the pirates off.
Grace was a fine sailor and wanted to do something more exciting than catch fish. When England attacked her castle, she became a pirate herself rather than submit to England rule. Grace was so successful that soon she had her own fleet of ships as well as several islands and castles along the west coast of Ireland. When England captured her sons, Grace sailed to meet the Queen of England, Elizabeth I. Trying to save them. To everyone's surprise, the Queen and Grace became friends. The Queen returned her sons and possessions, and Grace helped fight against her enemies, the Spanish.
On an island nation in the Indian Ocean called Mauritius, there lived a girl who wanted to know everything about plants. Her name was Amina. Amina studied biodiversity.
Amina thought of plants as living, biological labs full of vital information for humans and every other species. Amina Gurib was elected president of Mauritius, and every day she fights hard for all the inhabitants of her country, people, animals, and of course, plants.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Ada who loved machines. She also loved the idea of flying. She never managed to soar like a bird, but she created a beautiful book full of drawings called Flyology, where she recorded all of her findings. She met a grumpy old mathematician named Charles Babbage. Ada was a brilliant mathematician herself, and the two soon became good friends.
Charles invited Ada to see a machine he had invented. He called it the difference engine. It could automatically add and subtract numbers. Ada wanted to go further. What if this machine could play music and show letters as well as numbers? She was describing a computer way before modern computers were invented. Ada wrote the first computer program in history.